What do you get when you combine Link's Awakening, Tears of the Kingdom, with Zelda as the protagonist? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Hello, welcome to Intermerifica, New Mexico, the channel where we look at things of wonder from the perspectives of faith and reason, philosophy and theology. I'm your host, Daniel Kelly, and what we're looking at is one of the great wonders of the culture is the Zelda games, particularly Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. This is my initial thoughts. I haven't played the whole thing, and I will give a full review once I've finished the whole thing, but when games get longer and longer and you've got kids, sometimes it takes a little bit longer to finish, and I wanted to share my thoughts before that. And the first, most important thought, I think, is that my kids really love it. So I think that's a good sign. I think if young children and people like me can both enjoy it, that's a really good sign. There will be some light spoilers in this video. Nothing too heavy. I'm going to try to avoid spoiling anything because I think there's some really good points, really cool stuff that shouldn't be spoiled. But mostly I'm going to stick to stuff that's in the trailers, so if you've seen the trailers, you're good. But if you completely don't want to be spoiled, skip this next section or just skip to the end of the bottom line. So getting to it, I think one of the main things is, what is it like? What's the storyline like? What is it like playing as Zelda? I think that's one of the most important things, and people said, usually it's called Legend of Zelda, but you're playing as Link. But the really cool idea is like, what if you were Zelda? And so you start actually as Link, and I think it's really cool. It starts as if you finished a game of Zelda. Link he's got full hearts, he's got a bunch of different items, which I wasn't sure if they were going to do that, but yeah, you've got several items that you can use, and you're going through, and it's kind of like the last dungeon. And then you get to Ganon, and you have to fight Ganon. And one thing I like, I'm playing on Hero difficulty. That's usually how I start games, and it seems that this game is easy enough that I'm going to stay on Hero difficulty. I hardly ever die even on Hero difficulty, so that's the higher difficulty. But so on Hero difficulty, and a little bit even on the normal difficulty, one thing I like is Ganon doesn't feel just nerfed. You're obviously supposed to win, but in Hero difficulty, if he hits you twice in that beginning fight, you're dead. So you do have to be careful and play a little bit, which I think was really cool. He's not just this nerfed monster that you're like, whoa, why were people afraid of him? Okay, but so you beat Ganon, but then he draws Link into the Dark Realm, and Link in his dying thing shoots the crystal holding Zelda, and Zelda escapes, and then you're Zelda. And I think that's all really cool. I didn't think I'd usually be saying this for a Zelda game. The storyline on most Zelda games is not very good. The last one that I really liked was Breath of the Wild, because you were putting the pieces together of what happened. And that, I think, was super good. I think they should have done more with that whole memory thing. I think that was great. I love that mystery, putting the pieces together, that kind of thing. And most Zelda games, though, the storylines kind of take it or leave, very forgettable. The main thing is the game. Like, for example, Skyward Sword, you played that. They tried to put the storyline more front and center on that, and I would say didn't do too good on that. I love that game, but the storyline, not that great. So what I like in this is, for a lot of parts of it, you're picking up the pieces, too, of what happened. What was Link doing? That kind of stuff. I love those parts of this. There's actually it's not a strong theme in this for the storyline, but I think it's a really good part, and I really enjoy it. And it, I don't want to say subvert, because I don't like that language, but kind of inverts some Zelda tropes in a really good way, that if you're a Zelda player and you see it, like, oh, I see what you did there, that's cool. I like that there's this ominous tension that it builds, because it's kind of like a Body Snatchers story, right, where is this person this? Is this person that? I don't know. And it doesn't lean heavily onto it. It's still a very light kids game, but the way they do it, I think, is really effective. And I think as Zelda, so what is it like as Zelda? Well, Zelda traditionally has the Triforce of Wisdom. Link has the Triforce of Power. And I think they do it effectively where you are in the traditional Zelda world, but as a different character. So it plays differently, and you feel different. You feel like you're a person that's using wisdom instead of just power. You're not as good at fighting, but you have other ways of getting around stuff. And I think they do that really well. So one of the main things that's different about you is you're not directly fighting things usually. You have this ability to make echoes of things, right? You can, like if there's a monster that you beat, you can make an echo of it. And that leads into the next thing that I want to talk about, which is a comparison to Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, those two most recent Zelda games, and how they handled the rewards and how this compares to it. Because when you first saw the previews for this, you saw that it was taking in some elements of Tears of the Kingdom, right? So there's the maps, there's this quest system, there's cooking, that in this it's making smoothies, but all that is borrowed from Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild. So I was a little bit nervous about some of these elements because although I really, really like Tears of the Kingdom, and you can watch my video, I'll put a link in the description on Tears of the Kingdom, I do think it has some problematic aspects that I didn't want imported into this, and I was nervous about whether it did. And so we all know that limitations breed creativity, but a lot of these open world games, and Tears of the Kingdom does this to some extent, try to get rid of all limitations. So that's getting rid of creativity, and it's not good. Limitations also increase our freedom in many ways. And I talked about that in the other video, but as G.K. Chesterton says, the glory of God is to be infinite, right? To infinite, have no limitation. The glory of human beings is to be finite. That's our glory, and it really is true, especially in games and stuff. We want limitations. We want to be limited so we can be creative. And most of the elements it imports from Tears of the Kingdom, I think it does well. The map system, the quest system, the cooking. The cooking is take it or leave it. Don't really enjoy it in either one. It's okay. It's just there. It just exists. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But most of it is imported well. But there is a big difficulty that I want to talk about, which is the issue of rewards. A traditional Zelda game, I think, does rewarding you for what you're doing better, and Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, I think, do it less well. I want to talk about that a little bit more and see how Echoes of Wisdom compares to that. So to have meaningful rewards, there has to be finiteness, limited amounts of these rewards, so each one makes you feel like it's really important. Well, that's one way you can make a good reward, and I think an important way. And that's the same as in real life. There's limited resources, so when you get something, it seems really, really cool and really fun. So video games, same thing. Rewards shouldn't just be easy to get, or it doesn't feel like anything. You're like, whatever, it's not a reward. And so in a traditional, and so every reward needs to be meaningful. In a traditional Zelda game, let's look at the main kinds of rewards. One is heart pieces. Heart pieces are very limited. There's only a certain amount to get you to the full heart, so each one is meaningful. If you want to complete it, it's very clear. Okay, I need to do all these quests to get them full hearts. When you've completed that, you're like, yay, very good. And it's very clear how it increases your power. It makes you more powerful when you get 4. It's very clear. So it's not confusing how it's increasing your power. And I think that's an important part. What's the other kind of rewards a traditional Zelda game has is when you get new items, right? That's a really important part. Each item is, of course, limited. There's only one. And they increase your capabilities in a very straightforward way. Like if I get the hook shot, I can get to places that I couldn't get before. Well, not all items in all Zelda games. Sometimes there's clunkers where you're like, I use it where I have to in the 2 dungeons that you have to use it, but other than that, don't use it. But for the most part, the items are a meaningful reward that's limited and really good. So heart pieces and items are the main things we look at in a traditional Zelda game. Let's look at the rewards in Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom Zelda game. There's so many shrines that can increase your hearts and your stamina that to me it doesn't seem as meaningful when you're getting them, because you're not just increasing hearts, you're also increasing stamina. Also, it's not as clear to me, it's much more complicated to see how you're actually getting better. At first, when you're increasing your stamina, you're like, oh yeah, I can do more stuff. And at first, when you're increasing your hearts, you'll survive more. But it gets to the point where it's just silly and you don't see any meaningful progression, and there's so many of them that it doesn't seem limited. That's the same thing with like the car oaks that are everywhere, that increase your inventory space in these games. So the first thing is they're technically limited, but not really. There's like 1,000 of them. They're everywhere. So even unless you're an insane completionist, you're not going to get all of them. But the next thing, what actual reward are they giving you? They're giving you more inventory space, which inventory space is basically like doing taxes. So they're helping you do your taxes better. That's not fun. That's dumb. So I think car oaks are an example of how not to do rewards. Another way that you're rewarded in Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, and this started before those, is where you're getting ingredients to help you cook stuff that heal your hearts, or you could sell. So they're basically like pieces of healing or pieces of rupees, which the healing and rupeeing is never a great reward in those games anyway, so a piece of it is less good. And what's the last reward that Tears of the Kingdom Breath of the Wild gives you? Is exploring, the thrill of discovering stuff. Breath of the Wild, especially when you find those memories that you're putting stuff together, that's a super cool reward for exploring. So that's what I think they do really, really well in those games. So how does Echoes compare to all that? How does it handle reward and stuff? Well, there's the exploring, which is good. It's not completely open world, but I think that's actually a good thing. It has enough open world so you can explore ahead of where you're supposed to be and stuff, and that's really fun, and you can get reward and stuff. But like Chesterton said, don't be so open-minded that your brains fall out. Well, this isn't so open world that your brains fall out. It has good exploring. But then there's so many things like caves and different stuff that should have rewards in them, that if they were all heart pieces, I think that their heart pieces might become a little bit meaningless, or you'd have to split the heart into 6 pieces or something. So how do they solve that? They want to have all these cool caves and stuff. The caves and little side dungeons kind of remind me of what I think did the best side dungeons was Twilight Princess. I loved that you could get into this big long cave just from a hole in the ground. I love that in Twilight Princess. Well, how does this handle? It's got a bunch of those, so how does it handle rewards for that? Well, it's got a bunch of different kinds of rewards. First, it has the traditional heart pieces. You get 4, you get a new heart. Good, very good. Then it has ingredients, just like Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild. They're more limited than, say, Tears of the Kingdom, which is good and bad. I don't like cooking a lot. It seems like a tax on my time. I don't like that. This, you cook less, which is good, but there's also less variety, which is bad. So take it or leave it, it's okay. Ingredients are an okay reward. Everything in this game levels up. Your ability to make echoes level up. The different monsters that you can make, you find different levels of them. Your ability to turn into Link, a shadow version of Link, that levels up. How powerful you are as him levels up. So there's all kinds of things that you can get stuff to level them up. That could be kind of fiddly and hard to keep track of, but I think they balance it pretty well. There's clothes you can get, kind of like Tears of the Kingdom, but against much less of them, and I think they're actually more meaningful because there are less. There's these clothes you get that increase different stuff. I think it's handled very well. The echoes are one of the main rewards you get, because whenever you find a new piece of furniture or you beat a new monster, you can learn it and then you can make it. Not always. You can't always make it. Like if you go out of your way to explore places you're not supposed to be like I did, let's push how far we can go. You can beat monsters that you cannot make because they're too high level when you get them, and that makes sense. So there's furniture monster echoes, and we'll talk more about them, and monster echoes. And then a kind of in between is those weird flying tiles that are in all the Zeldas. I like how they handle whether those are monsters or furniture. But anyways, echoes I think are a good reward. They're handled well because it's always exciting when you get a new one. You regularly are getting new and exciting echoes. And for the most part, they increase what you can do in a meaningful way, either helping your fighting style maybe, or making you able to get different places, different things. I think they do a good job of increasing what you can do in being meaningful, for the most part. There's some that I would say not, but for the most part. I love that it gives that Pokemon vibe also that I like of you gotta catch them all. Want to get all the monsters, want to get and be able to use them. I love that. Using them to fight is fun. And furniture, there's less. You get more of it in the beginning, but then you less often get it. But we'll talk about that more in just a little bit. So overall, the rewards are really good, especially that goes, but the other rewards are kind of random. For example, I blew up a rock and got a heart piece, and I completed a mini dungeon and just got some ingredients. And that seems like they're just like, here are rewards, just put something of them at the end of each of these things we designed. It seems a little bit random, and that's not as good. The last thing I want to talk about is it's a traditional Zelda game, but with platforming elements. So it's doing the traditional way, like the older games, like Link's Awakening, but there's platforming. Link's Awakening did this a little bit, but this goes into it way more. And I think it does it in a way that feels traditional. furniture echoes help you get around mostly. That's mostly what they're doing. And that's really fun. And it makes you creative to get new places. To get new places, you have to be creative. You're not just climbing up and using stamina or anything like that. You have to make a bridge. You have to do different stuff, and it's creative. And so each place to get to a new place to explore more is like a little mini puzzle, and it feels very Triforce of Wisdom, which is kind of the theme of this game. So really good. Everything about it is like there's little mini puzzles. That's really good. There is one downside is kind of the antechamber of each dungeon, of each temple, is a platforming bit. That these are fun, but sometimes they drag a little bit, and that's one negative thing. But overall, I think it does a Zelda-filling kind of platforming very well. So what's my bottom line? What I played so far and gotten a good way through the game is it's a very fun game, and I look forward to completing it. I hope that's helpful to you. You have a good day. God bless you.